You are still here. That is not an accident. Think about that for a moment. Not the medicine that kept you alive. Not the doctors, not the luck, not the circumstances. I want you to sit with something deeper than that. You are still breathing, because God has not closed the book on your life yet. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You are thinking, maybe that is true for someone else. Maybe that is true for someone younger, someone stronger, someone whose best years are not already behind them. And I want to look you in the eye and tell you, that voice is not wisdom. That voice is a lie, and it has been stealing from you for too long. Here is what I know about the enemy. He does not waste his time on people who are finished. He does not bother attacking someone who no longer matters. So when you feel the weight of depression pressing down on you, when the loneliness gets loud at 2 in the morning, when your body starts breaking down and the sickness comes, I want you to understand something. That is not punishment. That is resistance. And resistance only comes when something worth fighting is moving forward. You are not a survivor by accident. You are selected for this moment. Now I want to take you somewhere. I want to take you back into Scripture. Because the Bible is full of people who were told their chapter was over, and then watched God write the most extraordinary pages of their lives. Moses was 80 years old. 80. And I need you to feel the weight of that number. Because at 80, people in his world expected you to be finished, expected you to sit in the shade and let the young ones carry the burden. And Moses himself, Moses agreed with them. He stood at that burning bush with every excuse you have ever heard in your own head. I am too old. I cannot speak well. Send someone else. There is someone better suited for this than me. But God did not choose Moses, despite his 80 years. God chose Moses because of everything those 80 years had built inside him. The patience, the wilderness training, the failures, the grief, the hunger to see justice done. And that staff in the hand of an 80-year-old man split the Red Sea open. Then there is Caleb, 85 years old, standing on the edge of the Promised Land. And do you know what he asked for? He did not ask for a quiet valley. He did not ask for a rest. He looked at the mountain full of giants and he said, "Give me that mountain. Give me that mountain." Not because he was naive, not because he had forgotten how hard the battle would be, but because he knew something the younger men around him had not yet learned. He knew that the size of the obstacle is a measure of the size of the reward waiting on the other side. And he said those words that should ring in your spirit right now. He said, "My strength today is just as it was then." That is not bravado. That is a man who has learned where his strength actually comes from. And then there is Abraham and Sarah, two people who had buried their dream so many times they had stopped digging it back up. 100 years old, a body that, by every human measurement, was past the point of possibility. And God showed up at the most impossible moment and said, Now is when I fulfill the promise. Not when you were young and strong and full of your own ability. Now, when you have nothing left but me. I need you to hear that. God often waits until you have run out of your own strength, because that is when the world gets to see his. But let me tell you something, the world is not saying loud enough right now. Something that gets drowned out in the noise of youth culture and social media and the obsession with what is new and fast and shiny. The world is starving for spiritual fathers and mothers, not mentors in the corporate sense, not life coaches, not people with frameworks and systems and 5-step plans. The world is desperate for people who have actually walked through the fire and come out the other side with something real. People who have held a dying spouse's hand. People who have lost everything and rebuilt it. People who have wrestled with God in the dark night of the soul and found him faithful on the other side of that wrestling. Young people today have access to more information than any generation in history. They can learn anything in 20 minutes. But information is not the same as formation. Knowledge is not the same as wisdom, and you cannot download what you carry. Think about Eli and Samuel. Samuel was hearing the voice of God, but he did not know what it was. He kept running to Eli in the middle of the night, confused, unsettled. And it took an old man, a worn, imperfect old man, to say, "Go back, lie down, and when he speaks again, say this." And from that one conversation, one of the greatest prophetic voices in all of Scripture was unlocked. You are someone's Eli. Maybe you do not know it yet. Maybe they do not know it yet. But somewhere in your circle, in your family, in your church, in your neighborhood, there is a Samuel lying awake at night, hearing something they cannot name, needing someone exactly like you to help them understand what they are hearing. And think about Naomi, a woman who had lost her husband, lost her sons, lost her country, and walked back to Bethlehem, telling people to call her bitter. She thought her story was over. She thought the best she could offer Ruth was her grief and her empty hands. But the wisdom she carried, the knowledge of the land, the understanding of the customs, the quiet counsel she gave about Boaz, that wisdom was the invisible hand that navigated Ruth into the greatest blessing of her life. And that same Ruth became part of the lineage that led to Jesus. You do not need a stage. You do not need a platform with 1 million followers. You just need to stand in the right place at the right time for the right person, and God will do the rest. Now I want to talk to you about the most powerful weapon you have. And this one surprises people every time I say it. It is your knees. When your legs get too tired to walk long distances, when the body starts slowing down, that is not the enemy taking something from you. That is God repositioning you for intercession, for the kind of prayer that only comes from someone who has lived long enough to know exactly what is at stake. There was a woman named Anna, 84 years old, a widow since the early years of her marriage. And the scripture says she never left the temple. She worshiped night and day with fasting and prayer, while everyone else was living their lives, building their careers, raising their families. Anna was in the temple, year after year after year. And when the moment came, when Mary and Joseph walked through the door with an 8-day-old baby, Anna knew, instantly, because decades of prayer had sharpened her spirit to a razor's edge. The prayer of someone who has been broken and rebuilt, who has wept at gravesides and still found reason to praise, who has prayed the same prayer for 30 years and kept trusting through silence. That prayer carries a weight that shakes the foundations of darkness in ways that younger prayers simply cannot yet. The enemy wants you to believe you are irrelevant so that you will stop praying, because he knows what your prayers can do. Do not give him that. And now I need to speak to the pain in the room, because I know some of you are sitting with something heavy. You are sitting with decades of regret, choices you made that you cannot unmake. Years you wasted in ways you are ashamed to name out loud. Seasons where you walked away, fell down, gave in to things you swore you never would. And the lie the enemy wants you to believe is that it is too late to matter, that the damage is too deep, that the time is too short, that what was lost is simply lost and nothing can make up for it. But I want you to read a promise from the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. God says, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. Not some of the years, not the recent years. The years, all of it. The decades of wandering, the seasons of destruction, the time that felt absolutely wasted. God says I will restore that. And the way God restores time is not by turning back a clock. He restores it by doing in 5 years what should have taken 50. By compressing glory into the years you have left in a way that makes everything before it look like preparation. And if you need proof that it is never too late, think about the thief on the cross. No time for a long ministry. No time for a track record of faithfulness. No time to go back and undo a lifetime of choices. One conversation. One moment of turning toward truth. And Jesus looked at him and said, Today you will be with me in paradise. Today, not eventually, not after you have earned it back. Today, your assignment can be activated in a single breath. and you still have more than one breath left. So let me give you something real to walk away with. Not a list, not a system. Just 3 shifts that can change everything from this point forward. The first shift is in your mouth. Stop saying I am too old. Stop saying my best years are behind me. Stop rehearsing the narrative of decline. Because the words you speak over yourself are not just expressions of how you feel. They are agreements. And when you agree with the lie, you give it authority over your life. Start saying instead, I am anointed for this season. What I carry right now is exactly what is needed right now. My history is not baggage. It is fuel. The second shift is in your legacy. Psalm 71 verse 18 says this, Even when I am old and gray, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your mighty acts to all who are to come. Write it down. Tell the stories. Speak out loud the moments where God showed up in your life. Do not let those testimonies die with you. Because someone in the next generation needs to hear that God is faithful over decades, not just in a single dramatic moment. That is a testimony only you can give. The third shift is in your intercession. Pick 3 people. 3 young people who are in the critical years of their formation. Pray for them by name, every single day, without stopping. Not light little prayers. Deep, persistent, informed intercession. The kind of prayer that wrestles. You do not have to be in the same room with them for that prayer to change their lives. You do not even have to tell them you are praying. Just pray. And trust that the God who heard Anna in the temple for 84 years is hearing you right now. Paul, writing from a prison cell near the end of his life, said this, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. I want you to imagine the moment you stand before God and you can say those words, not with shame, not with the weight of everything you left undone, but with the deep, settled confidence of someone who stayed in the fight all the way to the final bell, who used every breath they were given, who finished not in quiet, slow decline, but blazing. That is available to you, right now, not someday, not if you had started sooner. Right now, with the years you have left, exactly as you are. You are still breathing. That means you are still dangerous to darkness. That means the assignment is still open. That means God is not done writing your story. So finish well. Finish loud. Finish in a way that makes heaven stand up and take notice. The best chapter of your life is the one you are about to write.